Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking about Justin Jefferson signing a massive 4-year, $140 million deal with the Vikings. 110 of that is fully guaranteed, making him the highest non-quarterback contract ever signed in the history of the NFL. So congratulations to him. It was well worth it. We are going to move into some hockey talk now, as that kind of was the big story of the weekend, at least in the big four major American sports, with basketball taking a back burner, the finals starting on Saturday. There was just two hockey games, two game sixes, and we have a set Stanley Cup Finals. And we will break down the elimination games that got us there, and then we will break down the finals matchup in a later segment. We're going to start here in this segment talking about the Oilers versus Stars game 6 that happened last night, a kind of crazy game. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, go ahead and throw that in the comments. I will get to that as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you for sticking around and talking some sports with me on a beautiful Monday afternoon. Once again, that link is GSMCPodcast.net. I will get, Kelsey has a question, Oilers or Cats. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I'll explain my reasoning a little later, but I'm going to go with the Panthers, the Cats on this one. I will explain that in a future segment, but for now, we are going to break down the Oilers versus Stars game 6, a game that happened last night. And this game is super confusing to me, honestly. If you didn't watch the game and you go and check out the box score, you don't look at the score at all, you say, hey, the Oilers had 10 shots the entire game. You expect them to lose that game. They win this game 2-1 in a shocking, it really was a shocking game because they did not play a good game. Outside of that first period, when they got their 2 goals, they did not play great. Now, the Stars didn't do their part either. They didn't get those great scoring chances you expect them to get in an elimination game with the backs against the walls, like the Stars have been able to do in the past on the road. And a lot of that has to do with giving credit to the Oilers' penalty kill. They've killed, I believe, 26 straight penalties, which is insane. And that is probably the main reason that they are still here, still alive, still kicking in the Stanley Cup Finals. They are still in the Stanley Cup Finals right now is because of their special teams. You want to talk about how you win these games without elite offense. You have to win it in general. To win a series in the playoffs, you have to win in 2 of 3 phases. You have to win in offense, you have to win in defense, or you have to win on special teams. And I'm lumping goalie into defense because goalies are kind of their own special island because you can win a whole series just on goaltending. But we're gonna lump them into defense for the purposes of this. You need to win 2 of the 3, and at all times, the Oilers are winning offense. At all times, they are winning that. Where they really stepped up in this series was their special teams. They had a handful of shorthanded goals. They, like I said, shut down 26 straight power play opportunities against them. They have not allowed a goal. That is insane, the way that they've played. I've praised their defense all series long, and they did a great job. I once again just want to point out how insane it is that they won this game, because they were not the better team in this game. They were up 3-2 in the series. They were down 2-1. They've won 3 straight games in this series to send it to to send themselves to the Stanley Cup Finals. First time since 2006 that they have made it. And again, like we've been talking about this entire time, it is off of the backs of Connor McDavid, off of the backs of Leon Draisaitl, off of the backs of Zach Hyman. Hyman and McDavid scored goals in this. If you saw that McDavid goal from last night, he splits two defenders on a little switch through the middle, gets into the crease and just flips it up. That is pretty hockey, and it is not something that anybody other than McDavid probably could have done, especially against a really strong defensive unit in the Dallas Stars. It's very impressive to see. Now, I do want to say, if the Stars play like this in the Stanley Cup Finals, if the Oilers play like this in the Stanley Cup Finals, in this, like they did in this last game, and I do want to give a shout out to Stuart Skinner, who stopped 33 out of 34 shots. He had a great game. But if they play like this, only getting 10 shots on net, with their, real powerhouse being offense, they cannot go dark for 2 periods and expect to win games. This is a game that they won on grit and grit alone. And like I said, I have no idea how they ended up pulling this game out. They probably shouldn't have, but they did. And that's just how the puck goes. That's just how hockey goes sometimes. And it's a magical sport because of that. But they can't keep playing like this. This is not something that they can continue. Especially going up against a Panthers team, and we will talk about it definitely is the lowest shots on goal for a conference winner, Kelsey. 10 is kind of what you expect out of the Oilers in a single period, and it's basically what they got in that first period. They had that 2 goals in the first period, but it was not the way that you want to play your game. And hats off to them for being able to pull out a tough victory, a tough game, and stay in it and stay fighting. This Oilers team kind of feels like a team of destiny right now, and there's been that's kind of how it goes in hockey a lot of times. But Connor McDavid, if there's anybody in the league, in the history of the league, that deserves to win a cup, it's him. And there hasn't been a hockey. The Stanley Cup, Lord Stanley hasn't been back to Canada since like 2000, I believe. Back when it's been a very long time since Lord Stanley was back in Canada. The Stanley Cup champions were a Canadian team. It's been living out in America for quite some time. So maybe this is the year that they finally get another one. But they have to go up against a tough opponent in the Florida Panthers, a Florida Panthers team that's built very similarly to the Stars, except the Stars just can't seem to get over the hump. The Panthers have been there 2 years in a row, and we'll talk about the Panthers in the next segment. But my big question heading out from this series is, what is it going to take for the Stars to get over that hump? Because the Stars have, for the last 3 seasons, been this almost favorite in the West. They've made it to the conference finals last season, and they lost. Very similar fashion to this series. They lost to the Knights, who ended up winning. 2 years ago, they lost to a stacked Flames team. They just didn't have offense that year. But they have offense now, and they've got a lot of young guys and a lot of old guys. I've talked about their depth. They have one more shot to win a cup before they kind of run into cap hell. And this really felt like the year that they had to do it. I'm a little concerned that a team as deep and as great as this, they're obviously not going to be able to keep it together. They're going to have to make some tough decisions on who to keep and who to cut. And that deadline is coming up soon. They've got one more crack at this. And it really feels like this year was their best shot. So I don't know what it's going to take for the Stars to get over the hump. I think this was their path to the finals. And maybe they just played too much hockey. They got tired from 2 straight physical series heading into this one. But we will see what happens in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Panthers. And speaking of those Panthers, they took down the New York Rangers. A tough series. They also go on a little run of their own after falling behind in that series 2-1. They win 3 straight as well. We will break down Game 6 in that series, talk about where the Rangers go from here, all coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.